I don't want to be called Bill.
We're live.
We are live, and we got a new recording set up today.
Yeah.
This is the first time I feel like we're kind of professional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys can't see this, but we have this like big TV that we can see ourselves on. It's actually pretty cool. So shout out to Riley for hooking us up.
I can see your hands.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. What's up, everybody?
Do you like that? That I can see your hand. You can see my coffee cup. All right, whatever.
All right, so we are going into a topic that I love, and I actually got to teach on at the baccalaureate last year in May, and this is how do we approach graduation. So I'm going to read, I think the book of Jonah is like amazing for this.
Okay.
And we'll kind of go through. I don't want to go through this podcast like it's a sermon, and I definitely want to. So keep me on the discussion mode. Don't let me like just preach
Teacher baccalaureate message.
Yeah, 6 main points here. But I'm just gonna read my favorite passage in Jonah, and then let's go right into it. I'm not even gonna take the time to explain it. Then we'll circle back, and I'll kind of explain why I love this passage. So it's Jonah 3. If you have your Bibles at home, you're listening, go ahead and turn there. Let me just say this. I'm going to make an honest confession this morning. Jonah is one of the hardest books in the Bible for me to find. It's like so sneaky. Like, I know it's, okay, minor prophet. He's somewhere near the back, right?
He's near the back
Of the Old Testament.
near Habakkuk.
He is. And he's also near Isaiah. It's right before Isaiah, right? But I tend to forget that. And it's 4 chapters.
Tend to forget that.
And it's like 2 pages in my Bible. So I'm like literally, before the podcast, I'm like flipping. Okay, let me go to the front of my Bible. Okay, 1427. So honest confession this morning. The table of contents, it comes in clutch sometimes.
People still use them.
I still use
Pastors
it sometimes.
still use them.
All right. So Jonah 3, 2 through, just read till I'm done. All right. You guys know verse of the week for me is more like I could read a chapter because it's just, that's
book
what it
of the
is.
week.
All right. Book of the week. Here we go. Jonah chapter 3, starting in verse 2. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim to it the message I give you. Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Now Nineveh was a very large city. It took 3 days to go through it. Jonah began by going a day's journey into the city, proclaiming, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. The Ninevites believed God. A fast was proclaimed, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. This is my favorite part right here, verse 6. When Jonah's warning reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. Okay.
Doesn't seem like a graduation.
Doesn't seem like a graduation passage.
Yeah.
It doesn't. But I want to talk about 2 things from your experience, okay? And so this is how we approach graduating, or you can apply this to, how do I approach my life, right? Like, this can apply to you at any area of your life.
Maybe how do you approach like when a big change is coming?
Yeah, how do you approach a big decision or whatever, right? So I want to ask you 2 questions. The first is, what happens when we try to plan out our whole lives? Okay, so this is kind of like a compare and contrast is what I want to go with. What happens when we try to plan out our whole lives? That's what we see in the book of Jonah, right? We see that Jonah's like, no, I know better than you, God, even though you've told me what to do. So I'm going to go do my own thing. And that's like chapters 1 and 2, and then even chapter 4 after Jonah obeys, right?
Yeah.
He's still being like all pouty and like, you know. So what happens, or give us some insight, David, into your life. What happened when you tried to plan out your whole life?
Let's see, because I think actually I was blessed, and I was blessed by God in the sense that when I gave my life really over to the Lord in 11th grade, knew very shortly after felt called to ministry. I never had a picture of what that would look like. I was like very open to whatever God wanted to do with my life. But I think this is related. I remember a pastor missionary person spoke at the church I grew up at, and he said that sometimes following the Lord is like a football stadium, and this, it's bright, the lights light up everything, and you can see the next 100 yards in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes following the Lord is like holding a candle, and you can only see the next step. But regardless of your situation, you have to just continue to take the next step with the Lord. And so for me, there was like these continued seasons. Like 11th grade, I give my life to the Lord. I feel called to ministry. I know I want to go to Lancaster Bible College to pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
The next 6 years of my life were laid out for me. And I could see that I was like, I'll do senior year, I'll do 4 years of college. And that was it. And then I got to my senior year, and I still couldn't see further than that.
Yeah.
And it was like, I graduate in May. I remember like being in like end of my fall semester. It was like, I graduate next semester. I don't know where I'm going to work. Lauren and I were almost engaged at that point. So I was like pretty certain Lauren and I were going to get married. But I was like, I don't know where I'm going to work. I don't know where I'm going to end up living, even, in this country. And I think though, even though there was a lot of, I guess, anxiety, worry about it, because you want to know. It's our human nature. We want to know.
Yeah.
But knowing that my life was in the Lord's hands, there was a sense of peace that I had, because I was like, I don't have to plan it out.
Yeah.
I don't have to try to figure it all out for myself. So,
Yeah.
you have to do the responsible things of, I applied for jobs.
Yeah.
I applied here at CBC. I looked for youth pastor positions all around the country, one of which was in Florida. I was willing to move to Florida.
Yeah, that would have been such a sacrifice, dude. 70 degrees, sunny, beautiful weather. I was willing to go
to
the beach in Florida.
It was Gainesville. The church was in Gainesville. So
is that like middle Florida?
That's like University of Florida town.
Oh, wow.
So like it would have been, in some ways it would have been like a pretty cool.
Yeah. No, but you still would have had to leave your family and yeah. So there's sacrifices on the table when you're talking about that.
Yeah. But before I gave my life to the Lord, and this is what I feel so bad for, I shouldn't say feel bad. I have always recognized that there is a weight of career and future decisions that I think I've never had to feel. Because in junior year of high school, I felt called to ministry, and I was like, that's what I'm doing with
And
my
that's
life.
right around the time I feel like when every person is like, oh, what should I do with my life?
Yeah.
Like freshman and sophomore year, you're kind of like, I don't know and I don't really need to know.
Yeah.
Junior year, it's like, whoa, dude, I got like 2 years left. And then it's like, there's a million possibilities, 18 to 25 is when human beings make the most, on average, the most influential decisions in their life that they're going to live out for the rest of their life, right?
Yeah.
And your brain isn't fully developed until you're, 26?
20, yeah,
That's
25.
wild. That's a wild statistic, right? How our society is set up.
Yeah.
So I think for me, which I'm the opposite of you, okay? Because, which I think is helpful for this episode because you get to see both sides of it. I was someone that tried to plan out my entire life for myself. Okay, so like I always had, I'm a dreamer, like a visionary. So I always had like these big dreams of what I wanted to do. When I was 8 years old, I wanted to play in the MLB.
Yeah.
Shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles. Then you get to a certain age, you're like, that's not really realistic. okay, my dad's a cop. I want to be a cop. Then my dad was like, you don't want to do this. I was like, okay, I'll listen to you. I wanted to be an architect.
Oh.
My parents got me these like drawing books to become an architect. I realized I was terrible at drawing, and I'm not that creative. Like, dude, if they would have let me build buildings, I'm telling you, things would have fallen down. Like, bridges would be collapsing. Okay? It would have been bad, okay? So after, like, the first couple sketches, I was like, yeah, this probably ain't for me. All right? Get to high school, I'm like, I want to be an engineer. Right? So I, like...
That's hilarious.
I think it was my sophomore, junior... I think my sophomore summer, my parents are like, we're going to go on one college visit this year. Maybe it was junior year. My parents are really good about that stuff. Like, we're going to set one goal for you to go to a college visit. So I went to Penn Tech because I was like, I'm going to go there for engineering. I was really, like, cost-minded about school. I went there, viewed the engineering department, and nobody talked to one another. Everybody was, like, 10 feet apart in their own little bubble, just, like, tinkering, right? And I was like, bro, this ain't for me. I'm a social butterfly, bro. I need to fly.
You'd be running around that lab room being like, hey man, how you doing?
How you doing?
What are you working on today?
Yeah. And they'd be like, Will, you're fired, dude. We've got nothing done since you've been here. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, I want to go into real estate, right? But I had all these voices.
You would have been a good real estate agent.
Yeah, and my goal was like, let's make money, dude. So I had a couple different voices in my life that were speaking God's calling into my life before I even knew it. Like when I was a CIT at junior camp, Pastor Jeff was like, hey, I think you could do really well in youth ministry. And in my mind, I was like, bro, you're nuts. I was like, there ain't no way I'm ever going into ministry.
You're an idiot.
I was
you
like,
don't know
what you're talking about. Left that conversation. A couple years later, I'm in college. Still focused on the real estate thing. I had a couple opportunities for some cool real estate internships. And before I accepted one of those positions, Don was like, hey, why don't you come intern at the church with me for a summer? I really did not know Don at this point. He was just some dude that moved into my neighborhood and was like, yo, dude, what's up? He's like,
hey, man, how you doing?
It's so good to see you, man. And I was like, I don't even know who you are, but...
He said, hey, man, well, it's good to see you. Hey, what are you hiding from?
Yeah, I'm like, bro, I'm not hiding from anything, bro. Like, Don started chipping away. Like,
you're like, geez, all right, I don't know you, Texas man.
Yeah, so I was like, he was like, come intern at the church for me. And I was like, I remember telling my friends, I told Don straight up, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I told my friends, I was like, I will never intern at a church. Okay? 2 things I said no to. Never will do. Ministry and an internship at a church.
So both.
Both
the same thing.
Yeah, same thing essentially. And yeah, now I'm a high school youth intern at a church. So, but I think during that time, like, I had a lot of anxiety that was like underneath the surface, and I masked it well. But because I was trying to plan out my whole life, there was a lot of anxiety.
Okay, and that's what I, like, part of what I wanted to get to was, like, I feel so bad. And yeah, I feel so bad for people that aren't called to ministry in the sense of you have to figure, like, it's really up to you to choose. Not that the Lord can't help you come to the decision what you're going to do, but you have to choose what you're going to do with your life.
Yeah.
And you can make anywhere you work and whatnot a ministry. Mm-hmm. But I remember, like, from really, like, 8th to 10th grade, I did the same. Like, I bounced and bounced and bounced to thing what I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be an architect at one point. I thought I wanted to be an electrical engineer. I thought I wanted to be a school psychologist. And then I finally landed on I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. Mm-hmm. So from 8th grade to 10th grade, that was what I was going to do. Yeah. And we did these, like, career testing things. And a bunch of memories are flooding back in my head. I'm about to, like, hit, like, 10,000 RPM right now. we took this test. We took this career test, right? Ask us a bunch of questions. What do you like? What do you do? What are you strong in? Like, what are your weaknesses? And I remember, and right, this is when I wasn't pursuing the Lord. Didn't really care for my relationship with God. Felt like he hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And the top thing, it gave you a top 10 list of like, these are careers you probably would excel in.
Yeah.
Number 1, clergy. And I looked at it. I called my friends over. I said, guys, look at this.
Yeah.
It's saying I should be clergy.
Yeah.
And then the second one was like a counselor. And I was like,
Well,
see,
clearly it's the counselor.
I was
right?
like,
yeah.
they goofed. I don't
Yeah.
know where that clergy thing came from, but they meant counselor.
Yeah.
And so from 8th through 10th grade, I was looking at schools like good psychology programs, whatnot. But I remember like I felt so much pressure in that time of like, man, whatever I declare my major going into college
Yeah.
and sign $50,000 of debt to my name,
Yeah.
like I like have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have to figure out what I actually want to do really shortly after I do that.
Yep.
And that's hard. Like I really feel for like, especially like 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, as that pressure really ramps up and becomes real, like that is a hard point in life that I think gets underplayed or doesn't get handled well. It's like, just make a decision, figure it out. And it's like, you're a kid still. You don't know how to figure those things out. So
Yeah, and I think if you spend your whole life trying to plan out what's next, or you spend your time planning out your life, you're gonna miss out on what God has for you.
So what is, like, do you have in your, like, what you kind of prepared and have, like, what is the how? How do you approach graduating? How do you prepare for the future?
Yeah, and that's the second half of this is like, what's the answer to this? Instead of like, because it's a control thing. That's the root of why we want to plan everything out, or why we want to know what's next, right? Is it's a control thing. I want to have control. I want to be in the driver's seat. So the answer is to submit. Instead of planning out your entire life, we need to submit our entire lives to Christ and trust that it's going to be a one step at a time. And like, I just want to let you guys know that there's redemption. Like, God can redeem any situation in your life. Like for me, you said going to college and getting some degree you're never going to use, right? I did that. Like it is never too late to be like, okay, God, I'm going to follow you, and he will redeem that. Because that's what happens to Jonah, right? He ends up in the belly of a fish for 3 days. Me, I went to college for 4 years. I'm not using the major that I studied and paid for, right? And God still said, I'm a God of second chances. Like, I'm going to redeem. I'm going to use what you learned here for good. And like, you can still submit your whole life to me, and I still have a plan for you. Even though you didn't get it right the first time, even though there's a lot of consequences from that, like financially or decisions that I made, I'm still going to redeem this. And God used Jonah's second time around obedience, even though it was reluctant, to save an entire city, right? Yeah. And when we talk about submitting, this is why I went to Jonah chapter 3. Yeah. We talk about submitting. I want to read verse 6 again. The king of Nineveh, right? This guy who, in his own little world in this city, he was the top dog. And for a lot of us, that's how we are in our own lives. We're the king of our own lives, or the queen of our own lives, right? We are in control. And what did he do when he realized that there was an authority that was way greater than him? He took off his robe. Man, dude, that's the act of submission right there. Taking off your robe, and he puts on sackcloth and sat in the dust. So that's a picture of what we need to be doing in our lives every single day.
Yeah. I think I sorry, my mind kept going to, there's a guy in our life group that what he went for college for, he's not using. And so he has this joke he says all the time, which I think is hilarious. Like I don't know, he'll give a solution to something, say the answer to something, whatever, and he'll be like, well, I do have a biology degree. And like, right, the joke is it means nothing to the situation at
exactly.
all. But he went and got a biology degree.
That's awesome.
So you should say, well, I do have a marketing degree.
I do have a marketing degree, guys. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, God can redeem any situation that if you've went out and planned your whole life, you think you've gone too far, it's never irredeemable.
Also this, so Lauren, my wife, got a social work degree. Worked in social work for about 2 years, I think a little over 2 years. And now she's stay-at-home mom, homemaker. And there's a temptation for her to believe I'm not using my degree. Yeah. But she is, because she has given me so much wisdom and insight into how to care for people, for families, for people who are in the situation that a social worker might be working with them. And it's this whole world I would have never known. I would have never known how to enter into. I would have never learned the strengths and the tools social workers are given. And so I encourage her, and this is is like, you are using your degree. You are making me like this amazing version that would have never existed without the insight and the wisdom and the knowledge you learned. And so, guy or girl, husband or wife, like, maybe you have this degree, experience, certification that you feel like you're not using. Just because you're not using it very explicitly doesn't mean it's a waste. Yeah. And I know I don't know how you feel about it, but it's like, I think your marketing degree in some ways plays a big role, especially in the life of a church. Like, there's useful things you learned in that. Yeah. That help us here.
And also, I think my senior year, because I wasn't going to go back to college. I think I've talked about this before. I wasn't going to go back to school. I was just going to go back to Bible school, but God kept calling me back in specific ways for one more year to finish out my degree. I'm like, this is pointless, dude. I'm not going to do good wrestling, Like, I wasn't training like all the other guys were training year-round because I had Marine Corps obligations every summer. And I was like, I'm willing to give up wrestling. I'm willing to give up school. He calls me back. My senior year, I gave like 30 to 40 presentations that were over 25 minutes long. Dude, I mean, for the entire year, every week, I was giving presentations for multiple different classes. And I was like not really a good public speaker before that. And God used like that year.
That was getting your foot in the door.
Yeah, it was a small way. I mean, there were a lot greater things that happened that year that was like, wow, this is why God called me back. But that was one small thing that God was like, I'm not going to use this year academically in vain. Like, I'm going to use this to prepare you to speak in some ways. Yeah. So, yeah, and then I think also practical advice that I would give to people, if you're like, because you said there's something that's in a sense, when it comes to your calling, there's a lot of peace around being called to ministry, right? But if you're not called to ministry, I would say, like, look at the life of Paul, okay? Yeah. So, and even though Paul was called to ministry, we can follow the way that he lived his life. And that's this, in 1 Corinthians 16, one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. He says this in verse 8, "But I will stay on at Ephesus until Pentecost, because a great door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many who oppose me." And so we see here, if you read this in context, I challenge you to go read after this 4 chapters in Jonah and 1 Corinthians 16. You read 1 Corinthians 16 in context. There was no like bright light that came down from heaven that told Paul, go to Ephesus. Okay? Paul saw an opportunity to glorify God. And
That's good.
And he said, I'm going to go. But at the same time, what we see throughout Paul's life, Paul makes decisions, but he holds them with open hands like this. So I would encourage you, like, not everybody is called to ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing, okay? Because we need
Yeah.
people who are following the Lord in the workforce. And that's how we get
we
100%.
so need that.
That's how you get a fully equipped and fully balanced body of believers in a church. If we were all called to ministry, we have like 1,000 people that come here on a Sunday. If there were 1,000 of us that came here and we're all in ministry, like vocationally as a job, it would be terrible, right?
And at the end of the day, right, like, it's a reality we have to talk about. The church, at the end of the day, needs money.
Yeah.
Like, not that the Lord won't provide, not that everything rises and falls on money, but at the end of the day, there's budgets. We have to put food on the table for ourselves, and people need to do that, for themselves and their families. Like, we couldn't all just be relying on the generosity of people. Have to work.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing that you provide to the church. And I remember there's some guy that a community group director from my previous church said, some people, like, that is their way they get to serve, because they're at the point where they can't go on a mission trip or they can't do whatever, but giving money is the way they get to serve the church.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, if you are like a high school kid right now, or you're anywhere in your life and you're like, I don't know what to do next, it's okay to be like, let me go try something. Let me go pursue this with the intention of glorifying God and holding it with open hands, and allow the Lord to guide your steps day by day.
Yeah.
That's what I've really tried to do coming in here every day, because there's questions around my job, like, am I going to be here long term? Or what's next if I don't get this position? Those are a lot of thoughts that I've wrestled through a lot. And what's brought me peace is, like, I'm going to keep showing up here day after day and trying to glorify the Lord through this job until he either continues to open this door or closes it and moves me somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
there's one last thing I want to say, and that is, I was talking to Lauren about this last night. She's like, you don't want to scare kids into ministry, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But I think it's so important to know, if you at all think God is calling you into ministry, you better follow that calling.
Yeah.
Because look at the story of Jonah. It does not go well for people who hear the call of the Lord to ministry and run from it.
Yep.
It doesn't go well for you.
Yeah.
And so I don't want anybody to pursue the calling out of, like, fear or out of a sense of obligation. But at the same time, like, a calling is a calling. And you can't have peace. I don't think I could have peace if I ran away from the calling that I knew God had on my life. I don't think you could have peace knowing you. And so I think there's kids at TNT and Student Body that the Lord's calling to ministry.
100%.
And I just want to say, follow it. Listen to it, lean into it, talk to your leaders about it, because that's a serious ordeal.
And the same goes for, like, we're not just talking about vocational ministry either, which is just ministry where you get paid to do it, right? Same goes for volunteer ministry. If you feel like the Lord is calling you into a volunteer ministry, like, we all as believers are in ministry together. It's not just you and I or whoever's on staff here at the church that's in ministry, right? We are all in ministry. So the same goes for volunteers. Like, if you feel like the Lord is calling you to volunteer in an area, or has given you gifts to serve at your church or at this church, the more that you run from it and say, no, I'm not going to do it, the less peace that you're going to have.
Yeah.
So.
That's good. I think it's a wrap.
Yep, I think it's a wrap.
We should clean Bates' tank.
We should.